Hey guys, anyways, how's it going? It is Jason JD here. Now, prior to the start of the video, I just wanted to give everyone a massive thank you. Doing Twitch and YouTube has been just absolutely incredible throughout this, vacation of mine. And I'm going to try to keep doing it as much as possible despite my heavy school schedule. So, thank you guys. Now that I've taken a week or so to really step back from the game and absorb everything, more like 3 weeks, I think that I can provide some insight from my perspective, which after 27 hours of playing the game, probably more, I think holds some weight. From the moment I started up the game, I immediately felt a rush and excitement that I haven't felt in a while as a gamer. I'm not very into open world games because I've always been accustomed to multiplayer shooters that I can enjoy with my friends. But I thought, hey, I have an entire month and a half of vacation to spend playing a video game. Why not try out one of the most hyped games right now? Up until this point, I only played other open world games such as like Batman Arkham City, which I thought was absolutely fantastic, and Red Dead Redemption 2, which to this day is my favorite story mode game. Because of this, Cyberpunk did feel like a new adventure to me. It felt as though I would have to try to immerse myself into the game if I wanted to get as much satisfaction from it as I possibly could, which I like doing when I play these type of games. I like, the roleplay aspect of it. Unfortunately for most people, the game fell flat. This was of course due to the massive number of bugs that plagued the game wherever you look, along with the content that was permanently removed. If you played this on anything other than a PC, it was most definitely a rough time for you. I would say that I probably had one of the best versions of the game, with minor lags, bugs, and glitches here and there that were to be expected, but nothing game breaking up until after I finished the story. As I started the game, the atmosphere of Night City instantly hit me. I'm from a big city myself, so it was nice to feel that neighborhood vibe off the bat during the first couple missions. When looking around and driving, I found myself often looking at the city's design, instantly feeling the love and attention that was put into Night City. The city itself isn't all that big. If you're a pro driver, the longest any drive should take from point A to point B should be approximately 5 to 10 minutes. It's safe to say though, I am no pro driver, as evidenced from any of my walkthrough videos. At times, I was content to just stroll or cruise around Night City, something that I can't really say for games like GTA 5, which the cruising part's fine, but the strolling gets boring. On top of the city's design, I was heavily sucked into the world by the main characters of Cyberpunk 2077. John, Rogue, V, Judy, Pan Am, Mitch, Saul, Jackie, Goro, Evelyn, all of them not only had a purpose for being in the game, but they felt organic. They all had their major themes to further encapsulate the player. Johnny represents both the anti-corporate and the youthful recklessness that's often associated with youth that don't grow up with much and end up idolizing local heroes, which can be a good or a bad thing. These people push the culture of the big cities that later find themselves in more rural areas of life, kind of the way the pop culture diffuses down from city life to town life or suburbs. Rogue represents the shift from the youthful to the experienced. Jackie represents the people who never make it out of the hood per se, because he ends up dying in one of the missions, always aspiring to achieve something most deem impossible from that area. Judy's loyalty and friendship, along with curiosity and perspective. Goro represents honor above all else, and Pan Am represents love as the happiest of endings. To be quite honest, I can do a review entirely on the characters alone. The characters and the writing for this game were just amazing. As previously mentioned, Night City is so well designed that I can walk around and get lost in the city despite it being small in comparison to other open world games today. A lot of this has to do with how crowded some of the neighborhoods can feel. The game has a sense of verticality, multiple layers built on top of each other that really help to represent the compact lifestyle of city life. Haywood and Japantown are areas that stand out the most in this regard. In one of the missions that's later in the game, the setting is on bridges and they use ladders, scaffolding, and high-rises to get from place to place that make you feel this the most. Another standout feature in this game is the perk system and abilities. Each perk that was added to your character really felt important. You felt it right away, especially those that had to do with the quick hacks and the body. In fact, the perk upgrades for the body section were the best. if all you are playing this game for is the main story and some of the side missions, you won't have to grind much either. Money isn't needed for many of the missions, and at no point did the game feel like I had to grind to get to a certain level for a certain boss. Other than upgrading your max health and regen, weapons were the main target for improvement in this game. Visiting the Ripper Dock wasn't all that important for the main story either. Its use only serves to make your character overpowered if you choose. The body modifications are a nice addition, but in no sense are they really that important. It is more of a preference if you choose to get them. The world design, the characters, and the perk systems were the highlight of the game for me. Unfortunately, there were a lot of issues. I'm not going to take too long with describing all the bugs that were in the game because that would literally take too long. Let's just put it this way. Many people had bugs that were game breaking. The type that would require a restart to the game to reset the spot that the bug is occurring. There was a bug that would crash the game if the player overfilled their inventory in an RPG game that revolves around collecting loot. But I must be fair to the game. I didn't really experience any of these problems, so I must critically examine the game through my experience. I know they occurred and happened, and it will be taken into account later in the scoring of the game, but I cannot be as harsh as other people were. I encountered a handful of bugs, only one of them being game breaking, and that was after I had finished the story mode the first time. It took another attempt at a different ending for me to experience this bug. Now, don't get me wrong, in no way, shape, or form am I excusing CD Projekt Red for releasing this game in this state. It is very disappointing that the game released in the state that it did. If the gaming community as a whole experienced maybe a small handful of bugs in the game that were more on the humorous side rather than the game-breaking side, gamers wouldn't be all that upset. But the way Cyberpunk 2077 released, the state that it was released, especially on console, so half-baked, lifeless, and unfinished, is the real problem here, and it reeks of greed by the people at the head of the game. The bottom line here is that the AI in the game is simply terrible. The NPCs on the street all react the same way to danger. The cops would spawn in right out of nowhere to shoot at you. Cars would pop out randomly right in front of you, resulting in a crash, and the enemy AI just flat out felt dumb. After the main characters, the NPCs provide the next level of realism, which simply did not happen here. One of my biggest annoyances in the game was that you could leave your car parked in the middle of the street and the car behind you would simply stay there. They wouldn't try to go around you or anything of the sorts. The NPCs felt more like set pieces rather than other characters in Night City. Another annoyance I had was that I could click to talk to an NPC and all they would say was, "What do you want?" Which again is like, why have the design if it's pointless? It's kind of like if they were going to do something and decided not to. The NPCs in GTA 5 had more life than those in Cyberpunk. In all honesty, real gamers, true gamers that cared more about the quality would have waited extra months for this game to truly be ready. Even CD Projekt Red constantly talks about the game will come out when it's ready, and it clearly wasn't. Let Cyberpunk be an example to all game developers. Gamers are tired of this bullshit. If I pay $60 of a video game, I want $60 of a video game. I don't want to pay for $30 of the game now and $30 down the road because you decided to release something unfinished. That's a terrible model these developers follow. It has to stop. With all of the negatives and positives taken into consideration, it was difficult to really come up with an accurate consensus on the game. Would I give the game another go? Probably. Am I likely to play the free DLC? Of course. Will I play the paid DLC if it's for more missions and not for mere cosmetic reasons? Probably again. Maybe. On the level of gameplay, there are some mechanics that I wasn't a fan of, like the slide or the strafe. But that's all a matter of getting used to the controls. I did appreciate the shooting over time because it felt like I had to learn the recoil a little more. The movement wasn't bad, but in my opinion, the driving was kind of weird. It was, in my opinion, horrible. Or maybe I'm just a bad driver. The problem with this game is that it constantly contradicts itself. Where incredible effort is clearly on display in the design of Night City and the character significance to the story, many other aspects of the game, such as details and a true sense of free roamability, seems to be lost. When I started to play the game, I was under the assumption that I would be able to buy awesome properties, get to know random NPCs that weren't a part of the main cast, go out to virtual clubs, do all the things that I wasn't able to do in GTA per se. Although you can go to one nightclub in all of Los Santos, it lacks detail outside of the main story, and that seems to be the major problem at hand. One of my biggest complaints with the game is that the game just ends after you finish the story. You can't continue with the free roam in the way that you would want. You know, you want to finish the game, then you can free roam after that. It kind of sends you right back to the final mission, final arc of the game, the final act right before that. Do not do the final act, just go and free roam. Basically, there should be an option in the game to just let you free roam once you are done, without the final mission waypoint there to annoy you. Again, this is personal preference here, and I might be nitpicking. From a score of 10, a 5 is an average game. Despite all the problems, I do believe this game to be above an average game. Time will tell if Cyberpunk 2077 gets any better, and if any additional content is added into the game that is worth gamers' time and money. It looks like there was a lot of love put into the story, but it was extremely rushed out the door to meet the demands of investors. If I am being completely objective, which is probably impossible, I have to put this game at a 7 out of 10, despite my urge to give it an 8. It's just too unfinished, and there's just too many problems. You know, most people with one go through will experience, you know, some bugs, and over time, there shouldn't be any. On release day, there should be so few that it's not mentioned much. Maybe with the other content, optimization, and bug fixes, it can work its way to an 8. But like I said earlier, time will tell.